I just love bugs, okay? I am the Animal Care Manager and Certified Vet Tech here at Zen Habitats, and I love breeding bugs. I think it's so much fun. Bugs are so cool, and it's nice to like have something that you've put a lot of effort into to give to your pets. It's like, you know, baking cookies for your dog, but I don't know. Last summer, I went to this conference where they had done an experiment where they took mealworms and they fed them different commercially available mealworm diets, and then they took them to a lab and found out the nutritional content of the mealworms. Unfortunately, I don't have a big, cool, fancy science lab, so I couldn't do the actual nutritional value of these bugs, but I wanted to tell you what happened when I fed superworms 6 different foods. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified for more videos like this. If you breed your own bugs, I'd also love to hear your methods that have worked really great for you in the comments below. Stick around to the end of the video to see if our reptile critics enjoyed the taste of my bred superworms. All right, let's get right into it. So to start this experiment, I chose 6 different foods to feed my superworms. I chose 4 commercially available diets. I did 1 with just oatmeal, and then 1 of the blend that I personally do here at Zen Habitats, which is chicken feed with added vitamins. I started this process back in January 13th of this year. We are now on May 11th, and I finally have data for you. Okay, so what I did was I took my 6 feeds and I put them in these tiny little ventilated containers. Back in January, what I did to start the project was I went through my adult superworm beetles, the darkling beetles, and I sexed them and made sure that I had a male and female in each container. It took about 2 weeks before I started to see eggs and tiny little worms. Once I saw them, I took the adults out so I could let the worms grow. Just as a note, if you decide to grow superworms, adults need to be removed because they will cannibalize the young worms and eggs. Now that my worms are growing, I decided to set some milestones where I would collect my data of measuring the length of the worms and the quantity of them. On day 30 of this project, I did my first counts and first measurements. Unfortunately, 2 of the bins failed, number 2 and number 5. I didn't have high hopes for number 5 as it was just oatmeal, so I feel like that's not really a good nutritionally sound diet for gut loading and breeding our bugs. The other one, number 2, was a commercially made bran-based diet. I'm not sure why it failed. I really don't know because 2 other diets were bran-based and they did great, so I don't know. All right, so fast forward to day 60. I did my second counts and measurements. Unfortunately, another bin failed. This one I was also kind of expecting to fail. So this was a specific gut loading diet, not a breeding diet. So it's very possible that it just wasn't appropriate for raising those superworms. Also, within the first month, I actually had to replace 3 of the adult beetles because they died in there, so there's that. Then we are on our last count, 90 days, so I just did this last week, and 3 of the bins survived. It was 2 of the commercially made bran diets and my chicken feed mixture. In bin number 1, we had a bran-based commercially available diet. We ended up having 6 superworms grow in there, up to 42 millimeters long. Diet number 4 was also bran-based, and this one did pretty well. We ended up having 18 superworms in that one, and they grew to 35 millimeters in length. So they were a little bit smaller, but we made more. In my chicken feed mixture, I ended up with 26 superworms, which was more than the others, and they averaged at about 36 millimeters. But I had super tiny ones and big ones in there. So the only thing that I can think of is that 2 sets of eggs were laid at different intervals that just so happened to stick in the substrate a little bit better, so they hatched at a later time. What is the takeaway from this? What did I learn by doing this experiment? Without being able to test the actual nutritional values of the superworms, I can, again, only base this on quantity and size. Oatmeal is really not a good, viable option to raise bugs on. I know a lot of people do it, but it doesn't have a lot to it. The other one, obviously, is we don't want to go with a gut-loading diet to breed bugs on because it's not the appropriate diet. It seemed like the supplemented brands and chicken feeds that had added vitamins to them tend to do a lot better. For example, the ones that I had the most success with was Josh's Frogs mealworm bedding, Fluker's mealworm bedding, and I use Purina chicken layer crumbles with added calcium and Reptile vitamins. So the chicken feed worked, and I'm going to continue using it because it has been working, and I got pretty close to the same results as the commercially available bug diets. I figured in case anyone wanted to join me in breeding these wonderful buggies, I'd show you how I do it. So for me, what has worked is 3 separate bins. I have a big bin for my worms, a small bin for my beetles, and then this like kind of tackle box looking thing for my pupa. To start, in our big bin, if you were to buy, you know, a handful, like 100 or so superworms to start your colony, you start in a bin. I put in 1 to 3 inches of my chicken crumble, dump in my worms and some vitamins. I feed them sweet potatoes and romaine lettuce. And then when it's time to start breeding, I will take some of my big superworms, so like any of the ones that are about full size, and I put them into my little tackle box. And if you put them into separate containers and isolate them, they will pupate. So superworms are a little bit different than mealworms. They need to be isolated in order to turn into that pupa stage. We'll give them about 2 weeks in here. They will emerge as beetles. Then they go in this bin with the beetles. Again, I'm using 1 to 3 inches of my chicken feed with vitamins, giving them romaine, sweet potato, and I just kind of let them do their thing. About once a week, I move all my substrate to the side, and I look in the corners and on the bottom of the container and see if I can find any tiny worms or any eggs stuck to the plastic. If I do see that, I take all of my beetles and I move them into another container, and then I take this substrate and dump it in here for them to grow, and then continue the process forever. All right, let's go see what our critics think of these. Good job, buddy. We really hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something from it. Our guys seem to really enjoy the bugs. Do you want one treat? Good girl. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so that you'll be informed for more videos like this. I'd also love to hear about your bug tips down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.